Hello, so this is Harvey from Ekcle, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this bass. Pretty simple sounding bass, however the good thing about with basses like these is you've got quite a lot of dynamic on how you can change the character. So let's get into it. Okay, so I've opened a fresh project. I'm now going to show you exactly how I made it and the process and why I did certain things to get a certain effect. So first of all, with the synthesis stage, we'll start up using operator. So the important thing about this sound in particular is the way that it can shift its harmonics and the harmonics actually used. And I guess the best way to describe that is what I'm actually going to do with this. So, for example, if we just turn the level all the way up on operator A, a bit loud, just going to turn it down a bit. Okay, so now I'm going to choose what wave I'm going to be using and starting off with. So I've decided to go with Sort D, and the reason for this is it's a mixture of even and odd harmonics, which, as you can see, fills the entire frequency spectrum, basically. So if I just get a spectrum analyzer up to show you this. So it covers quite a broad range of frequencies used. Now the reason why this is because I want to carve out certain frequencies, and I'll show you why I'll do this. So for example, if I just hold the note down and I'll show you with this little pencil tool what that can do. So you can get some really sort of weird formants with this. I'm just going to reset it and show you exactly what I was going to be doing. I was going to do something like that. Maybe boost them up a bit here. But this just sounds a bit different. So the next thing I'm going to do is add operator B and keep this on a sine wave just to sort of add another little frequency in the operator. So I'm going to put the course on 2 just to make it a bit different. Just turn up the level gradually. Now what you can start to hear there is, first of all, before we even add operator B, you can hear that really, really high pitched. So what happens is when you eventually turn it up, that eventually gets, silenced, and then the other frequency takes its place. Just about there it kind of comes over. So that's quite good for the minute. And if you wanted to change it even more, you could even try detuning it. That could give some cool effects. I might use that later, but not for the minute. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be doing is using the saturator inside the filter. So we're going to keep this as it is, but we just want to use the MS2 drive. Now this is almost a good way of just adding saturation through effects, through the filter without actually using the filter. So if you just want to add saturation, you don't want to have to go into saturator and then actually know which settings you want to use. It's just a quick and easy way of doing this, basically. So I go on MS2, that's quite a good one, and it's basically keep on bringing the drive up. So turn this down a bit more. About 11 or 12 or so, and then choose the shaper that you want. Soft will do for the minute, and that's another thing you can kind of look into to see what different harmonics and formants you can pick out. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be going through is Fabfilter Saturn. Now, this plugin's very, very good and very, very versatile. However, I'm not going to be using it to its fullest potential. I'll explain it a bit later as to what this actually does. Well, first of all, it's a saturator, as you can probably guess. But the reason what I'm doing is to actually affect the other effects rather than just what's coming through the synthesizer right now. So I'm just going to put the drive up to about 4. You can hear what it sounds like when it's all the way up. And then what I'm going to do is you're going to add source and then envelope follower. And then you click this plus and then you select the target. And we want the target to be B1 drive. As you can hear, it starts to change a bit. Now basically what this does is adds an envelope for the saturator. So if we put it all the way up, you can hear it gradually coming in. Let's just put it a bit lower. But as you can hear it, the formant changes a tiny bit. So we've got the attack on about, well, 0.130 milliseconds. And the drive about halfway. Okay, so the next step is going to be more saturation. So we've used this effect in conjunction with the other effects. Now we're going to use this saturator, which is under Softube, and it's called the saturation knob. It's very, very simple. It's got 3 settings: low, neutral, or high. I keep it on neutral, and just boost it enough to actually just increase the gain in the signal. And it just thickens it out a lot more. So you can hear the difference when I turn the other saturator off. Okay, so next is pretty much where the fizz and that comes from. So we're going to be using Erosion. Now, Erosion's a really, really good Ableton plugin because it allows you to add sort of broadband noise on the top of sounds, no matter what it is. And this is good for snares especially. If you want to add some brightness to snares, maybe we'll have a tutorial on that. And how exactly they can just be brought out a lot more with just using Erosion on it. It's also got sines, so basically what that is like FM, like frequency modulation. It inserts a frequency no matter what you set it at. So for example, the top is 18 kilohertz. So if I boost the amount, you'll see what that sounds like. Really grim. So we're going to use wide noise, just because the difference between noise and wide noise is it's wider. And plus this sound is quite mono already, so it'd be good to get some width without having to do any stereo processing. So that's quite good for the minute. So the next piece of the puzzle is distortion, as you can probably guess, and that's amp. So we'll set it on dual as well to make sure it's in stereo. Now, as you can hear, this setting straight away, it makes it quite, not nasally, but it's a bit too fizzy on the top end. So this is where you'd start to fine tune your sound. So we know that the noise added in was from Erosion, so we turn this off. You can hear it really kind of fuzz in the background. So we're going to turn the amount down. And also mess with the dry wet to see how much distortion you want to add on top of the noise. Now the last part of this is a pretty cool part. So what I've done is I've used multiband dynamics to make a frequency splitter. So I'll quickly set one of those up for you and show you exactly how I've done them. Now I usually save it in a preset, which I've made before. And I'll show you how to do that as well, which will be useful every time you want to frequency split again. So if you double click audio effect rack and then you whack multiband dynamics in, and then you click this button on the left and it shows the chains that you've got, the signal chains. So let's name this one high. And as you could imagine, this signifies the high range, high mid range. Now we're going to duplicate that, Command D, and we'll name that mid. And then solo that. And I usually like to make low about 100 hertz and below, not 120. So we're going to set this to 100. Now it's important you do this on the mid as well, because the mid is basically the band between 2.5 kilohertz and 100 hertz. So let's make it low. Okay, so we've got the frequency splitter up now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name this frequency split or something. And then what I'm going to do is I click save. And then you basically save it to your user library, which is in audio effects and then the audio effects rack. I've already saved one, so I'm not going to do it now. So that's basically whenever you want to process something on the low, mid, and high on the actual channel strip, this is a good way to do it. Okay, so we're going to be doing the processing on the high and the mid mostly, and I'll show you why we're going to be doing them differently. So we're going to be using Sugarbyte's Vowel. Really, really good plugin, by the way. If you haven't used it, you should get to know it. It's very, very good. So the thing we're going to be doing on the high end, first of all, to start, is we're going to be making this fizz more pronounced and more sort of distorted a bit, just to add some more interest and kind of enhance the harmonics a tiny bit in the top. So the way we're going to do this is just add a normal Vowel filter on top and just increase the drive, and then we're going to use the cutoff to find about where we want to have the peak of this frequency. So I'm just going to play the note and go through. So you can hear just the overdrive really adds a good sort of mid warmth to it. The important thing with this idea of frequency splitting, especially in the high end, is not to make something that's stupidly resonant in the high end, because it can really, well, if you're having or listening on speakers that are frequency boosted in the high end, it can really pierce your ears. Okay, so next we're going to go through the mid. Okay, so what I did in the mid is basically what I wanted to do is create this vowel formant in which we could manipulate using the frequency cutoff. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you what it sounds like when we sweep through the cutoff. Now, as you can hear, the reason why it's giving this formant is because the resonance. If we turn this all the way down, still got a tiny bit, but it's the resonance that really shines through. Now I'm going to leave it about there or so. Just something that kind of gives it a bit of resonance, and we'll add the overdrive to just give it some more midness to it. It's really cool, this plugin. And then all together, so when you kind of play a sound, it sounds a bit too resonant, just use the resonance and bring it down. Like that's all the way up. Bit too much. So to me, that's perfect at the minute. So as you can see, that was a pretty slammed sound, so I'm just going to turn that down a bit. So the next thing I'm going to be showing you is how we can manipulate this mid-band. If you go onto the macros up here, what I've done is I've set this cutoff onto macro 1, just so it's easier to find. So what I'm going to go through is find the cutoff. So all I do is literally just give that a wiggle. There we go. So then let's set that to map to macro 1. We'll call that something like Vowel. Nice spelling there. And all that's going to do is as you can hear, change the vowel. So we're just going to keep that, and even though it's not actually technically a macro because it's only one knob, I just use it just so it's easier to find, so I don't have to go straight into the plugin. Now that's basically the sound. Now the thing I want to show you is how versatile this sound can be. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set some of the important knobs up on some of the knobs on my MIDI keyboard, just to do it on the fly. So I'm controlling this vowel knob from my MIDI keyboard. And another thing I'm going to be controlling is the level. And this last thing will be the course. Okay, so we've got 3 different things mapped out. So we've got the vowel, we've got level, and then we've got the chorus. So I'll just kind of play a note and I'll show you how this note can change. So yeah, it can be quite a versatile sound, and then again, you can also do some crazy filtering on it. So there's lots of different things you can do with this sound in particular, and that's kind of why I like this sort of bass design, is because you've got a lot more versatility and a lot more things to play with, basically. So that's the sound, and hope you enjoyed.